talking about the U.S. government and the Canadian government. Most of the U.S. that I'm going to talk about is pretty much a review because you guys have already covered that, right?
Yes.
All right. During this, I'm going to need you guys to fill out the guided notes. That's the one with the staple in it. And it's literally word for word. All you have to do is fill out the blanks. Fill in the blanks. Okay? And then the other sheet is going to be after. Okay? Okay. So what do we remember about the U.S. government? Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
The U.S. government is a democracy.
Do you know what type of democracy?
A public.
Representative and presidential. What else?
Changed it in order to.
Good job. Anyone else? Yes.
We can change it.
We can change it? Okay.
Yes, we can
Like-
make other laws and stuff.
Right, so we have a say, right?
We have standard on.
Correct. Anyone else have anything to say? Yes.
Our government is based upon ancient Athens.
No, it's
So-
actually based on the Roman Republic.
Oh, but yeah, Roman Republic.
Right, good job. Okay, what else?
We have a president and branches.
How many branches?
We have 3 branches.
Okay, good. Okay, so does anyone know anything about the Canadian government?
No.
Like anything at all? Nope. All right.
It's just like our government, because I don't know.
Nope, you're about to learn.
Okay.
So first to review, the U.S. Constitution was written in 1787, and it was to replace the Articles of Confederation, which was the first document written to establish the government of the new United States. It was adopted in 1789, and it's the oldest written constitution that's still in use today. It outlines the most important principles, which is a federal system, separation of powers, and checks and balances. It includes the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments of the Constitution that guarantee such fundamental individual rights, such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
Wait, what? You went down really fast.
You're fine. It's because you guys are writing it down as well as I'm talking. But those Bill of Rights and the 10 amendments were added in 1791. Yes.
I was going to say, can you say that again?
Huh? Do what?
It's on the board.
Yeah, it's literally word for word. I copied and pasted from the PowerPoint and made the guided notes.
My pencil flew in my hand after I tried to fix my hand.
And by the way, if I go too fast or you don't get it, writing it down, then that's fine. You'll just get it from your partner in a little bit, okay? All right, so the U.S. government, we have a presidential democracy. So what that means is the president serves as head of government and head of state. And the president is elected by the electoral college based on the votes of the U.S. citizen. Does anyone know what the electoral college is? It's okay if you don't. Okay. So, the electoral college is a group of electors from the 50 states, and the number of electors varies for every state. So, what that means is, when we're voting, we vote for a representative, right? So, whenever we vote for that, that's going to be the person that's part of the electoral college, and then those people will cast their vote based on our majority vote for president. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, so, can you say that again?
Which part? Like the electoral college? So, basically, when we vote, when citizens vote, they send their cast in, and we vote for a representative, which is a part of the electoral college. But, so we also vote for president too, but then they get the majority vote, and then that's who the electoral person, whoever that is, the representative, will choose as president for that state. So for example, one second, if y'all ever watched, did y'all watch the election? This recent? Okay, so did you see the map on how some states were blue, some states were red?
Yes, the red was for Hillary, and I think.
The blue
No,
is
the
for
blue is for
Opposite.
Hillary.
The blue, yeah. But, So what that means is how they got it to that was based on the majority votes of the citizens. So if it was red, then that means the majority of votes were Donald Trump. If it was blue, that means the majority of the votes were were Hillary Clinton. That makes sense?
Because people had.
And so based on the color is who their electoral representative will choose. Okay, so suffrage, which is voting, we run off a universal system of that. You must be a U.S. citizen, and then the age requirement is 18 years old, but you also must meet the state requirements. So for example, in most states like Texas, you can't vote if you're a committed felon.
What's a felony?
So
Like a crime, dude.
Really, really, really
it's a
bad.
crime, but it's one that is bigger than the city and local municipal
Like-
courts.
Like if you
Yeah, like
killed
if you
somebody,
stole
man, like
Right, so if you steal something now, it kind of just depends on the amount,
you stole.
but.
like if you stole a bag of chips, you're not gonna get time.
You're not going to be you might go to jail, depending on, you know,
Like if
who's.
you
Or a bag of
stole
chips.
something-
But you're not gonna, it's not gonna be a felony, regardless, it's not gonna be a felony.
But if you walk in with a gun and scare people and say, give me money, that.
Well,
Or
if you like committed terrorist attacks.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Or if
all
you
of
kill
those,
somebody,
so all of those are
slit their throat.
federal crimes, right? Alright, so let's pay attention. So just real quick, the universal, that just is a general statement. That means that all citizens who meet the age requirements are allowed to vote. However, states have their own requirements, so they have to obey that as well. It's just general. So the U.S. federal system, it distributes power between the central governments and the states, meaning the national government does not have all the authority. Powers are shared between the federal or national government and the states. The U.S. has 50 states. Each state has their own government, and that includes with the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. Local governments at county and city level. So a state government, those are the ones that are over the state highway construction and most of the funding for state schools. Whereas local governments, those are the ones that are in charge of the police and fire protection, and then trash collection and school administrators. Like, for example. So we would be a county and city. So where I'm from Dallas. So, but I live in a town called Rowlett, it's a suburb. So where I'm from, in Rowlett, I have Rowlett Municipal Court, so that's a city. But I'm a part of Dallas County, so there's also Dallas County,
because you're in that area.
because it's the county of Dallas. Alright, so here's a little tree branch that I made of the different types of branches that we have. This is a review, so let's see, does anyone remember what the legislative branch oversees within laws? What do they do with laws? Do you remember?
They have to pass it to each other, and if it makes it, they'll give it to the president. If he says yes, it's a law.
Correct. So the
They can
keyword I
also
was looking
veto
for
it.
is pass,
They can also veto it.
right? The keyword I was looking for was pass. Okay? So what about the executive branch? What do they oversee with the laws? What did you just say?
They veto.
So what is the president, what can he do if he doesn't agree with the law? He
You
can,
can decline it.
so he can veto it, he can reject it, right?
And then it won't become a law.
Yeah, this
Right.
one.
Alright, so the judicial branch, what do they do with the laws?
Okay, so if you committed a felony, then you go to court, and then you have a jury, and the people that are in the jury get randomly selected, and, well, the
What do they do?
judicial branch,
Yeah, so keep going with the jury. Keep going, where are you going with that?
the judicial branch decides if they get punished or not,
Okay, so what's another word for that?
or what.
For the law, so it starts with an I. Do y'all remember that graphic organizer Ms. Brown gave you?
Hmm.
Interpret,
Oh,
remember that, they interpret laws. So you're right, so you're on the same road of that. So they decide which laws and policies are constitutional or which ones are not. Does that make sense?
And to decide if a person is guilty or innocent.
So that would be
No,
within
very
the courts, right? But yeah, that is a part of the judicial branch, yes.
And they have to do a field trial or, like, when it's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, they have to do a lot of trials. Alrighty, so the important part where you guys probably need to write down everything because I see a couple of people not writing. So the Canadian Constitution, they have an unwritten and a written. So the unwritten is principles carry the authority of a constitution, but not are actually part of the written document. So basically, these are just known rules. So an example of that is the Prime Minister can traditionally be voted out if he or she loses the support of the House of Commons, even though there is not a specific rule about this in the Constitution. So if the House of Commons does not agree with the Prime Minister or support them, then they can vote him out, he or she out, the Prime Minister.
Can you say that again? I got lost.
So an example of an unwritten rule in the unwritten Constitution is if the House of Commons doesn't support the Prime Minister, then they can vote the Prime Minister out.
What is the Prime Minister?
Of Canada, it's kind of like our president.
Oh.
It's just different. They don't have, okay? So the written constitution, it has two parts. So the first part was adopted in 1867, and it created the Federation or Association of Provinces of Canada. And then the second part is more detailed, and that includes laws created by both the United Kingdom and the Canadian Parliament regarding the British monarchy, Parliament, and the Governor General. All of those terms will make sense in just a second. But basically, it explains how elections will be held, how legislative assemblies are organized in the provinces, and an official charter of rights and freedoms to protect Canadian rights. So looking at that last sentence, where it says, an official charter of rights and freedoms to protect Canadians' rights. Does that sound similar to something we know?
Yes.
What do we have? What does the U.S. have?
Freedom of all races.
So freedom of speech and religion, right? And we also have the 10 Amendments and all that good stuff, right? Okay. So their government, they are a part of the parliamentary system as well as the constitutional monarchy. So what that means is the Prime Minister is serves as the head of government, and the Queen serves as head of state. However, the Queen appoints a Governor General. That was part of the term in the previous slide. And those are the ones that speak or represent the Queen. So a constitutional monarchy is a king or queen shares power with a government organized and empowered by a constitution. Canada was once part of the British Empire and remained under royal control until 1867 and then became their own independent state. They had self-rule, meaning they could make their own rules and treaties with foreign countries. If that were to happen, do you think that would be an issue if self-ruling was a thing here?
Yeah, it'd be an issue.
Okay, so do you think it was ever an issue in Canada? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So by saying that, in 1982, it was like that until 1982, which is fairly recent compared to the 1700s, right? So that's when the Canadians gained formal independence from British governmental control known as the Canada Act. So, just out of curiosity, does anyone know who the Queen of Great Britain is, which is also the Queen of Canada?
What's her name? Isn't it Queen Elizabeth?
Queen Elizabeth.
The third?
The third.
The second?
The second.
Dang it.
Good job. Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah.
How old is she? She's like.
She's like 80 something,
Oh, I thought
man.
she was dead.
She's old, man.
She's either 80 or 90 something.
Oh, so Queen
She's over
Elizabeth
100 years
II
old.
gave Queen Elizabeth the third England, and she took over England and Canada.
So, yeah.
Oh.
So the Queen of Great Britain is also the Queen of Canada, because they have the constitutional Canada was a part of the British Empire.
And that was the point.
Okay, so suffrage. They also have a universal suffrage. You must be a Canadian citizen, however, temporary and permanent residents cannot vote. So today, if you move to Canada and you live there for 5 years, you're not gonna be able to vote because you weren't born there, right? They have to be 18 years old and they're residents in the electoral district. And then Canada's federal system, they have units of territory called provinces. They have 10 of those, and they oversee issues such as property rights, taxation, and education. Each province has their own local municipal governments for cities, counties, and countries, very similar to how we have it. And then those provinces are within 3 territories. And territories are just more closely tied with the federal government.
Wait, I got lost. So, Canada is what? You must be 18 years, and if you weren't born there, you can't vote, and the government, the last word you said, how does that?
So just 3 territories? So these 10 provinces are within the 3 territories. So the 10 provinces are like, they each have local municipal courts for cities, towns, and countries.
What are
If you weren't born in
So-
Canada, you can't vote.
so the 3 territories with them with the 10 provinces.
So if they're born in Canada, they're fine, they can vote. This is 2 completely different categories.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. So this is the Canada Tree Branch, so we're gonna start with the Queen, who is obviously represented by the Governor General. She has say within the executive branch and legislative branch, and then the Prime Minister has most say because he is the head of government. The Prime Minister appoints, members of the cabinet, but he also serves as head of the cabinet.
What is it, the cabinet? I'm confused. Somebody said cabinet, and I'm
So you both leave.
What'd
No,
you say?
dude, it's not a cabinet.
Is it like a cabinet meeting?
So, no, it's not like a cabinet.
It's a
Yeah, I
little
know
part,
that, like-
okay.
It's part of the government,
Yeah.
it's the name of that little government section and the people that work in it.
What is it?
You were at BMS, the Burke Burnett Middle School, the cabinet of representatives. That's just what it's called.
Oh, so the
So-
people that run BMS.
It's not
So
like
they're
a cabinet.
representative.
Oh, because people keep on saying cabinet, and I'm like, I know you're not meaning the wood thing, but what are you meaning?
Okay, so the legislative branch, where a law must be approved by both the House of Commons and Senate. And then judicial branch, they interpret and apply the laws of Canada. Does that sound familiar with what our judicial branch does?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Supreme Court of Canada is Canada's final court of appeal. The Federal Court of Canada hears and decides legal disputes that arise. And then this includes claims against the government of Canada and civil suits. And then the provincial court are similar to our municipal courts in the US. Does that make sense? Okay. So, based on how the US government is structured and how the Canadian government is structured, which one in your opinion is more efficient? Raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Ours.
Why?
Because we have everything sorted out, and we have, we don't have any unwritten laws, we have, unwritten laws, we have written laws.
Okay. And is that seen as a downfall for you is because they have unwritten laws? Okay. Yes?
We have 3 branches that don't overlap. They have 1 queen, and she basically makes the rules.
Right, so I'm gonna elaborate on that just a little bit. So since since we have ones that aren't connected, but they do, they vote on their prime minister, but they don't get to vote on the queen, right? And they don't get to vote on the governor general as well. Those are all appointed. So that's a change, right? That's different. What else? Anyone say anything else?
Ma'am, can you back up a little bit? I didn't quite get everything.
Oh, it's fine. If you don't get everything, you will in just a second whenever you're with your partner. I'll hang out more stuff. Were you gonna say something? Everyone's good? You don't wanna say anything? Okay. So based you would see if the US government decided today to change to how Canadian government is ran. So today, right now, let's say we change to how they're ran. What changes do you think you would see?
And voting,
How?
well, every 4 years or every 8 years, you can serve 2 terms. But in voting, you couldn't really vote for who you would like to be president or main person.
You could, but there's an addition to that too, that you don't have a say, right? Because you're the queen, right? So that's a change. What else?
They don't get as many freedoms as we do,
And why is that?
because they have a queen, and, we learned from one of our democracy ones that, queen, and king didn't let them vote and didn't have a say in stuff.
So it's a little bit different in Canada. It's not more of a dictatorship. That's not what it is.
No, I mean, like, when they said, I forgot the, democracy, but it said that kings and queens ruled and you couldn't do it, like, anything.
Right, I get what you're saying. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's just a little bit different because it's together. So, you get that? You get what I'm saying?
And today, it's modern constitutional monarchy now, not ancient times.
Some of the rules, like, we have now, what do you mean? Like, some of the rules,
Do you have an example?
like, like the queen, like, she think it's like the same monarch. So, but like, they decide, and here, they decide.
So it goes through multiple offices, right? Multiple people, multiple representatives. Versus there, it's just a queen who,
Does the queen, like, if she wants to pass a law, can pass a law without getting the representatives and the branches?
she still has to go through the prime minister. But so it kind of just depends.
So she is a president.
So that's why it's not, so that's why some people see it as a negative, because it's a little fuzzy, I guess, a little, you know what I mean?
So if they wanted to pass a law, they have to go through the queen, and the queen says, yes, it's a law.
But so also the prime minister is the head of government, so that's where the justifying goes for it.
So the prime minister is like, what are they again?
So the prime minister is like our president.
Prime
Okay.
Minister, Visionary President, and the Queen is like all authority of the branches.
So they have their own.
Kind of
president.
minus she's not connected to the judicial branch.
Yeah.
Okay, so, the comparison chart, which is the other handout that you guys have, you're going to, fill this out with a partner, and you need to work with someone that's sitting like right next to you. You can move the desk, but you just stay in your seat unless there's literally no one next to you. But basically, you're just gonna fill out the similarities and the differences. You can use your guided notes. It's pretty self-explanatory whenever you get it. The first two, I just put in examples, so you just fill in the blanks, but that's what I'm wanting. So any similarities, any differences that you see within your guided notes or that you know, write that down under their category, the US or Canadian. And then, so I've kind of guided you over here on the left side in the criteria. So for example, when it says the federal system and it says states, territories, and provinces, that's literally what I'm looking for. So that's what you would write. You don't have to write anything else. Does that make sense? Yes? Are we good? Okay, work with a partner and you'll have about 8 minutes or so to work on this.
I finally got it signed.
Also, whenever you're working with your partner, make sure both of you guys are writing stuff down, because we're going to take a quiz after this, and you're allowed to use both of them, the guided notes and the comparison chart.
Do we get a sucker after we take the quiz?
No problem.
I heard everybody in the last time had suckers.
Wait,
No, I saw them with the sucker in their mouth.
Maybe it was just
And if you need any help, just raise your hand.
Oh, I don't have a partner.
Okay.
You can work. Yeah.
I'm ready to work. You guys all work a little bit, just on the east side. Hold on, rat moving again. Did you hear about the rat that came in?
Yeah, she told me.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rat thought it was smart to go through Kobe and him.
Yeah, did you see it?
yeah, it was like this big.
Jacoby.
It's
That's
He
how
said
big.
sta-
It was that big.
No, it wasn't like that big.
Okay.
But it wasn't
He
like that
said
big.
stand on the chairs, and I ran on, I put my back up here, and I ran all the way to the stairway.
Do you want
No matter what, that thing was huge.
I'm just
Do you wanna work with him?
Yeah, I'm working on
Do you have someone to work with? Come over here.
I used to go for it.
Oh, God.
Hey, Leo, my thumbs.
So that thing's recording?
Oh, I should have done.
Well, we did do something.
Okay, you're on a time limit. You wanna get that prize? She's got some amazing prizes.
I know it's like.
Okay,
So this paper is.
where's your other paper?
Where we writing now?
The similarities and differences.
And show me what you did get, and I'll show you what I got.
Can you go back to do the actual,
Okay, you're in a group, Haley. You and Brian can work together to fill in anything not filled in. Okay.
this is
I just,
but
remember
no,
the
no.
honesty, so I didn't offer them, just that they really.
This is what we need.
No.
How did I need to do it?
This is the
Ooh, I flew over the.
Yeah.
And then we need.
Miss Brown, can you turn on music for us? Checks and balances.
No, you do them all. Those are just, the first two are just examples, and you just fill in the blanks, but then you have to fill in your own
I can't see.
within the open space on the other ones.
Marcus, bring me your iPad.
So outline the federal.
So you can write the similarities or differences,
So in these boxes, we write the similarities of
so the type of government, what type of government are they? That's literally the only thing I'm looking for, is the type of government.
How do you spell balance?
We're a residential university, so that's what that's the only thing I'm going up on.
So we start from the Constitution and then work our way up.
AR.
So we start from here and then we work up.
Wherever you wanna go, wherever you see some similarities and where you see some differences.
So
The most that they're gonna be the same in is gonna be the suffrage one. Did y'all hear that? Because that's a question on your test.
what would we call their next government?
It's on there. Go to it.
Okay, so blank of power. Written is the blank Constitution still.
Yeah. Parliamentary and system and constitutional monarchy.
Written is the US Constitution still.
There. So the actual type. We have a presidential monarchy. Yes.
As a written.
Yes. And then in the Canadian one, you'll go
Constitution
to
blank
their
is split up
section.
into two parts.
And then. Okay.
Written and unwritten Constitution split up into two parts. Type the US, if you move there, it just means type the government, or like all.
If you move, do you still get the vote?
In here, if you move from a different country, you have to become a citizen. So you have to do the US one.
So if I move to like Europe or somewhere, I have to be born there to vote.
I don't know how Europe works. We're just talking about Canada and the US.
Alright, what is this?
But I'm sure you can Google that.
I'm good.
Not right now.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's like Canada States.
Oh, dude, we are. Let's make sure we talk, but let's make sure we we're not gonna give you a prize.
You can go over there and I'm gonna.
Where can we find suffrage on this one?
Is it 8 of 82?
It's labeled. Where? I mean,
Got it.
well, it says
Okay.
having the Constitution.
What's the
And
aim
multiple
of the
requirements
government?
in US, right? And so write down the requirements that are listed. To vote. So it's gonna be 18. Because it's requirement.
On the back and then must be.
You don't have to put it right here.
Federal system
Oh, I didn't get this one.
So just write the requirements and type it on the
Universal.
First 10.
What?
10.
And that's the only thing I'm asking in under that one is
Oh, but.
Is there anything different about it?
I'm at 17, that says constitution.
Oh no, I thought it just.
Or is that?
Wait, USD specialized.
U dot
I didn't even.
capital U dot capital R.
Has there ever been
Is there another word like for that?
Constitution?
Background.
Do you guys have about 4 minutes left
Has there
before
ever
we take
been
the test?
Has there ever been a king?
No, just write how many.
All of this.
And then write, treaty states.
Now we need to get.
And then we territory and property.
It's hard to read this.
There it is. Where does it say?
Okay.
Okay, it says, is the oldest written constitution still?
Is that the behavior government we have? And then look for the exact same thing with Canada.
Okay. And then this is, must be 18 and a, candidate.
What do we get the prizes for?
Pros and cons are like, I think good things and bad things. Like good thing about it and bad thing about
Okay.
it. Is there
Federal
pros and
systems.
cons about the good thing about it and the bad thing about it?
What about the
Is
federal
there pros and
systems?
cons?
Federal system.
Yes, so president.
Oh, federal systems. State, territory.
Oh, up to two.
Like it's split.
So the bottom where it says pros and cons, it's just of the two, and that's opinion based. So a pro is what?
Good.
A good about it.
And a con is
What's bad about it?
Right. So those are opinion. It can be different than your partner. You don't have to cover that. It's just it can be different. You have different views.
Statements with,
Like,
with
cost.
these are.
I don't think it is that.
At the bottom it says bonus points.
Yeah, that's just the ones with the 2 stars. The ones at the very top.
Does Canadian bacon come from Canada?
Canadian bacon come from Canada.
I'm dead serious. No, I'm
I would think so.
Canada people like
Hey, stay on task.
No, that's Irish. I know. Lucas said, Irish people back home.
Guys, you're still being recorded. Stay on task.
Based on why do you think it's more
Okay, must be 18 and a Canadian. Okay. Citizen.
It doesn't have to be long. It can be one word.
Okay, so it says blank of powers.
All right, you guys have about 60 seconds left.
Seriously?
We have to take a quiz after this. So,
Federal system,
territories, provinces. How many states does the U.S. have?
federal system, they have a queen, we don't.
Or provinces and territories.
What will we do for Billy Bryan?
What are we doing right here?
Oh,
How many
never mind.
states does the U.S. have? 50. That's right. And then does Canada have states?
No.
What do they have?
Oh, they're the states? They have.
They have blank power of.
Parliament?
Marcus, what's your?
Oh, provinces.
Yours goes to province. So
It
that's
says
the
Very territories,
power.
10 provinces.
Yeah, that's what you would go and then have a box.
U.S.
I look at it when it's
Between central government and states, community, national government,
to where it came from. You don't have to put up what you have right now because you can use it on the quiz.
Cubby, come here.
Yes.
Did you put a copy, because I'm not in yours right now, did you put a copy of all your questions in there for me? Since we couldn't open
The
them.
written one.
I did the,
Or, yeah.
All I did was, upload, I have the picture still.
did you put the pictures?
It's fine if you're not done, but I need you guys to hurry up so we can get this quiz, because if you don't finish, you're not getting the prize.
It's a sucker. Guys, don't get excited, it's a sucker.
You shush.
How do you know? But that's good.
Be thankful. Be thankful.
Yeah, it's a sucker.
I'll still eat the sucker.
Okay,
Well, maybe we can.
is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
No
Marcus.
talking. This is by yourself. Once you're done with the test, raise your hand and I will bring you the next activity.
So we're gonna use colored pencils for the next one.
We're done with the heading fire now. Oh.
Yeah, you can use both the handouts for the quiz. And remember, once you're done, raise your hand.
I have a question.
And if you need help, raise your hand too.
Did they kill that rat?
That's not what we're talking about.
Marcus, if you get that fixed tonight, you need to send me a message in Google Classroom.
Okay,
Unsubmit it, because I put your 5 questions in, but you still need 30.
okay.
And come here and look at what I did. All I did was, when you were in it, I screenshotted the pages. So I need to be able to see all of them, okay?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Are you done?
Miss Brown, they go to lunch after this, so the suckers are okay, right? Oh, don't you look at the phone?
Oh, no.
If they can eat them in here, or they can put them in a pocket and eat them after they eat lunch.
Did y'all hear that?
No, what she said.
You can eat the suckers in here or put it in your pocket. You don't want it?
And eat it during lunch.
And eat it during lunch.
Just don't eat it on the way to lunch. Awesome, okay, put it in the tray, please.
I got the limited editions, I have originals, but I'm missing
Wait, what kind did you get?
I just put it
Cherry?
Is anyone else done?
I got lemon.
These are limited, flavors, so.
So they're like exotic flavors.
Yeah, so they have s'mores, caramel, apple, peach tea, cotton candy, lemon shake-up, banana split.
Oh, I wish I got cotton candy.
Oh, I thought you said coffee.
I got Dum Dums. I got lemon.
I wish I got cotton candy. I love it.
I got one.